Imagine this, in the bustling streets of New York City, the most Jewish metropolis outside of Israel itself, a mayoral election is stirring up emotions like never before. At the heart of it all is Zohran Mamdani, a rising democratic socialist hopeful poised to become the most outspoken advocate for Palestinian rights ever elected to major office in the U.S. But here's where it gets controversial. His candidacy isn't just about policy, it's a mirror reflecting deep-seated tensions within the Jewish community about identity, Israel, and what it means to stand for justice. And this is the part most people miss. As famine gripped Gaza over the summer, with heartbreaking images of starving children flooding the news, something unexpected began to shift. Let's dive into this unfolding drama, breaking it down step by step so everyone can follow along, even if you're new to these complex topics. Securing the Jewish vote has always been tricky in NYC politics, but for Mamdani, a 34-year-old politician who's championed Palestinian causes since his college days through movements like boycott, divestment, sanctions, BDS, which means pressuring companies and institutions to cut ties with Israel over its policies, much like boycotts against apartheid-era South Africa, it's proving downright explosive. For clarity, BDS isn't about targeting individuals but about economic and cultural pressure to push for equal rights. Some Jewish leaders see him as a direct threat, sparking outright alarm. Take Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove from the conservative Upper East Side Park Avenue Synagogue. In a recent sermon, he warned bluntly, "To be absolutely clear and on the record, Zohran Mamdani represents a real danger to New York's Jewish community." His words resonated widely, backed by over 1,000 rabbis across America through a joint statement, and amplified in opinion pieces from major newspapers like the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. Cosgrove urged fellow Jews to rally, prioritizing their Jewish heritage and devotion to Israel above all else in this election. He targeted specific groups: undecided voters, progressive Jews who proudly embrace social justice, those worried about rising costs, people frustrated with Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu, Brooklyn residents, and those influenced by social media, all needing a wake-up call, in his view. Yet, what Cosgrove might not realize is that many of these very people are already engaged, and interestingly, it's Mamdani who's reaching out to them. This outreach arrives at a pivotal time. As the campaign intensified last summer, the Gaza Strip faced a dire humanitarian crisis, with widespread starvation and global outcry. Hundreds of rabbis signed open letters pleading for Israel to allow more aid into the blockaded area. Some Zionist clergy, those who support Israel's existence as a Jewish state, even got arrested protesting hunger outside New York's Israeli consulate, while others delivered fiery sermons from their pulpits. In a rare show of unity, diverse Jewish groups set aside old rivalries to organize a massive protest in Midtown Manhattan demanding an end to the conflict. Amid this evolving dialogue, a July survey revealed that 43% of Jewish New Yorkers intended to back Mamdani, hinting at a potential seismic change in how this demographic engages with pro-Israel politics. For younger Jewish voters under 44, that figure soared to 67%. Mamdani, who has long advocated for Palestinian rights through BDS and similar efforts, isn't solely defined by Israel in his appeal. Sure, many Jewish voters are either attracted or repelled by his core focus on making NYC more affordable, think rent freezes and higher taxes for the wealthy, but most still hold a strong emotional tie to Israel, woven into their religious traditions and community life. To put it simply, while Israel remains important, everyday economic concerns are increasingly key. What makes Mamdani stand out is his knack for building bridges, even with tough audiences. He's charmed NYC's business elite, despite his plans for rent controls and taxes that they oppose, and apologized to the NYPD for past comments about defunding police, a stance he now says he doesn't hold, explaining it as a call for better community policing over militarization. He's extending the same effort to wary Jewish voters, supported by young Jewish activists on the left who push for Palestinian rights. Mamdani has attended private meetings in synagogues, listening to stories of social isolation, rising anti-Semitism, and deep bonds with Israel. He's pledged to boost anti-hate programs and shared his personal background to foster understanding. These sessions haven't been without hiccups. Some rabbis faced backlash for hosting him, while others barred the door. Still, they've opened doors for honest conversations on sensitive topics. For instance, one Brooklyn attendee at a synagogue talk wished Mamdani had more forcefully condemned certain pro-Palestinian rhetoric he saw as hateful, but was impressed by his smarts and city improvement ideas. "I have to weigh which part of myself to honor at the ballot box," he reflected. Philisa Wisdom leads the New York Jewish agenda, supporting liberal Zionist values, that is, Jews who view Israel as a democratic Jewish homeland and believe they represent the majority of NYC Jews. She describes her group as undergoing an identity crisis, rocked by Gaza's horrors and the fading dream of a two-state solution, where Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace, a once central hope now seeming out of reach. Many couldn't fathom voting for an anti-Zionist mayor, yet they're grappling with new feelings about Israel and its government, she shared. For example, they agree with Mamdani that Netanyahu belongs in prison for his actions. Of the roughly 1 million Jews in and around NYC, about 1/5 are ultra-Orthodox, strictly religious, mostly in Brooklyn, leaning Republican, or modern Orthodox, more integrated, splitting votes between parties. The rest, conservative, reform, unaffiliated, or secular Jews, generally favor Democrats. But traditional patterns might not hold for Mamdani. That July poll peaked at high support, yet an October Fox News survey showed 42% of Jews leaning toward independent candidate Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, who lost badly to Mamdani in the Democratic primary, with 38% still for Mamdani. Cuomo is aggressively wooing Jewish voters, declaring unwavering backing for Israel and equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. He's labeled Mamdani a terrorist sympathizer and even suggested he'd celebrate another 9/11, though he later backpedaled, claiming no such intent. Cuomo joined Netanyahu's defense team at the International Criminal Court but recently downplayed it, around the time a New York Times poll preferred Mamdani's stance on Israel-Palestine. Trump's allies, like Representative Elise Stefanik, have escalated Islamophobic attacks, falsely calling Mamdani a jihadist who wants Jewish genocide based on a nuanced interview response about Hamas disarming. Even Democratic Representative Laura Gillen branded him pro-Hamas and unfit for office. Mamdani denies these claims, condemning Hamas's October 7, 2023, attack as a war crime, and delivered an emotional rebuttal to the hate speech. On the flip side, progressive Jewish groups and congregations reject both the smears on Mamdani and the conservative view that unwavering support for Israel is a religious cornerstone. "I'm surprised by rabbis, fighters for justice, even getting arrested protesting ICE, who fear a Mamdani win, possibly due to his Muslim faith," said Ellen Littman of Brooklyn's Kalat Cheina synagogue, which hosted him. Mamdani doesn't need most Jewish votes, about 15% of the electorate, to win on November 4, but their support would be hugely symbolic amid the high-profile backlash. His inroads with moderate Jews horrified by Gaza's devastation could signal a broader realignment in Jewish and democratic politics. Interviews with dozens involved in his outreach, from undecideds to hosting rabbis and community brokers, show his run is compelling Jews to rethink once taboo views on Israel-Palestine, now entering the mainstream. Last month, a star-studded Jewish-left gathering on a Brooklyn rooftop for the annual Maisels fundraiser, benefiting Jews for racial and economic justice, JFREJ, buzzed with energy. Attendees in Jews for Zohran t-shirts and kafiyas, traditional Palestinian scarves symbolizing solidarity, cheered calls for an Israel arms embargo, a free Palestine, and Mamdani himself. Speakers like Moshe Gessen and New York State Tenant Block mingled with music from Moroccan Jewish artist Laura Elkslassi and a lively klezmer band. Groups like JFREJ, Jewish Voice for Peace, JVP, and If Not Now, once fringe voices warning that blind support for Israel's actions was corrupting Judaism, now feel vindicated. JFREJ, with 6,000 members, focuses on local issues like housing and immigrants' rights, aligning perfectly with Mamdani's platform linking NYC justice to Palestinian equality. Executive Director Audrey Sasson gushed, "His primary win was one of my biggest as an organizer, uniting coalitions for real change." Along with